Good morning, everyone. We're going to start our media availabilities for today. We have been joined by Aric Almirola, driver of the number 10 Smithfield Ford for Stewart Haas Racing. We'll go ahead and open it up for questions. If you have one, please raise your hand and we'll get a mic over to you.
Where is everybody?
They're coming. They're coming, Aric. They're walking in, see? We'll go to Doug.
Hey, Doug Turnbull from PRN. I hope this isn't like offensive to ask, but we were all surprised to see the 10 car run so well last year. After a tough year for SHR. What was it about this track that really brought you and the 10 team in particular to life? And with a totally different car, are the expectations high, or is it like a total reset?
Last year, I felt like a lot of our struggles was mostly the intermediate racetracks, and we raced so much of them that it kind of stands out, and makes us look bad just more routinely because we run so many intermediate racetracks. Felt like we were off on aero and just missing some things, but I felt like our short track program last year was good. We were a top 10 car at Richmond. We were a top 10 car at Martinsville. And we came to Loudon, and our car was perfect. We made very minimal adjustments throughout the entire race. We started deep in the field based on the way that they did the lineups last year and the metrics, and we were so far down in points. So I think we started 20-something, 24th, 26th, something like that, and we drove through the field. Had a great day on pit road, and our car was good, and I did a good job on restarts, and it was just like one of those days where everything goes right, and we steadily worked our way through the field. We found ourselves in the top 5 by midway through stage 2, and then we were able to go and race with the leaders from there and get to the lead, and then we led a lot of laps, to the finish, and just felt like everything went perfectly. And when you have days like that, it's kind of easy to go to victory lane. It's the days where you have to overcome adversity that become challenges, and the adversity that we fought most of last year was just that we were down on speed at all the intermediate racetracks. And so coming to Loudon, I think it was a surprise for most people, but it wasn't really a surprise for us. Like, we felt like if we kept massaging on our short track package, that we'd have cars that we needed to go challenge for wins.
Other questions for Aric? Go right to the middle.
Nathan Sullivan with the podium finish. Aric, following up on that, you've ran well on most of the flat tracks this year. Do you expect that to continue this weekend?
Yeah, I hope so. Running as good as we've run at Martinsville and at Gateway, and then coming here, have a lot of high expectations and a lot of confidence coming off the win last year. So, Loudon's always been a good track for me. I think statistically, it's probably my best track. You guys would be able to tell me. I don't know. I don't dive into all that stuff. But, just thinking off the top of my head, it's one of the racetracks that you just always come to and feel like I'm going to run good and feel like I'm going to have a shot to win if the car does what I need it to do. It's, I think back all the way to the very first time I ever got in a Cup car here. I got in Jimmy Johnson's car on Saturday morning for practice, and went out and made a 20-lap run and went actually a little bit faster than he did. And that was just a huge confidence boost for me. And honestly, that practice really changed the course of my career. After that practice, and I went back over to the truck garage, and I ran really well in the truck race that day. Then the very next weekend, I had a conversation with Dell Jr. about driving his Busch car the following year, or Xfinity car. So just that practice, and then getting that sort of confidence, and then having Chad Canals believe in me, and then everybody at HMS, and then Dell Jr. asking me to come drive his car. It all started right here with that Saturday morning practice at Loudon, driving the 48 car. So this place has always been kind of a special place to me.
And when you look back to the victory last year, how do you feel your career's changed from that victory?
I don't think it's really any different. I think, my career is, something that I'm very proud of, and it's been up and down for sure. But winning at this level is so hard. It is so competitive. I mean, it's the best best stock car drivers in the world. And so to get all the way to this level and to win at this level is very, very difficult. And so to do it, and to do it at a mile, drivers type racetrack. And not to say that my other wins weren't, but to do it at Daytona and Talladega is nice. But those places take a different style of driving. So to be able to do it here, kind of, cemented, for me at least, to where I feel like, yeah, I got it done on a racetrack to where I needed to.
Go to Bob.
Bob Parker's Fox Sports. I have a couple. The first is, were you surprised they didn't put any resin down, and how much will that change the fact that they didn't put it down?
I was surprised that they didn't, just because they typically have. Last year they didn't, because we had a tremendous amount of rain leading up to the race weekend, and so there was still some grip left over, in those areas where they had previously treated it. But throughout the race last year, I felt like it was starting to wear off and go away. And so for them to not treat it this year, I don't know. I have no idea what to expect. I think it'll probably wear out pretty quickly. If there is any left, any grip left in those areas, it'll probably go away really quickly.
And I know you said a couple weeks ago that you hadn't given much thought to reconsidering your decision to retire from full-time racing. Still a lot of chatter about you potentially coming back full-time, so I'm curious if you've if you've thought about it any more over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it is. It's humbling to have people keep questioning me about it. I have given it thought, but I don't have anything new to say really as of right now. I mean, I think for us and for our race team, my focus is to get through these next few weeks and try and win a race so we can get our way into the playoffs. And I'd like to do that here this weekend like we did last year. But as far as anything that goes past, this year, I don't have anything new to say than what I've said previously.
We're going to go to Jana and then to Dan.
Hi, Jana Bardall with the Boston Globe. We're talking about your win here, but there's been lots of times previously where a guy who maybe started lower on the ranks has risen up here. What's different about this course that you think makes that happen?
I don't know. I always feel like coming to this racetrack is kind of a learned, acquired taste, so to speak. It's a very difficult racetrack. It's very unique. You spend more time in the corners than you actually do on the straightaways because the corners are so wide and so sweeping. So, for me, I've always felt like it's very much a driver's racetrack, and it takes a certain technique and kind of acquired taste, like I said. But for me, I've always just enjoyed coming here. I've got friends that live up here, and just when I come to the New England area, it's so like the fans and everybody just embrace stock car racing so much. It's just a really great atmosphere, and it's a different feeling for me. Like even when we pulled into the racetrack last night, like pulling in and the Xfinity cars were on track for practice, and I don't know, I get giddy when I come here. I get excited. It's just a really cool racetrack.
Yeah, and you guys are on the road a lot, but when you come up here to New Hampshire, it's a little bit of a change of scenery. So outside of the racetrack, is there anywhere that you like to hit around New England?
No, I have some friends that live down in Hampstead, and they travel up here, and we've been friends for 15 plus years, and so they've come up here for the last 10 plus years, and they camp out just outside the racetrack. So we spend a lot of time camping out with them, and our kids all get along, and they're out there running around playing tag and doing roasted marshmallows to make s'mores and stuff like that. So it is kind of a change of pace when we come up here. Just it's not all about racing and being at the racetrack. It's a little bit more like you're camping out with your buddies and having some fun. And it feels different for us when we come up here because of that.
We'll go to Dan and then to Dustin.
Dan Gelson, AP. So what's put that little bit of doubt back in your head that makes you think maybe you want to keep doing this even just in any form?
Because I keep getting asked. Honestly, like I haven't really put much thought into it at all, and kind of going throughout the course of the year, and then it keeps getting brought up, and then the chatter turns into real chatter, right? Like more questions are getting asked by decision makers, not just you guys, and so it puts that in my head to where I should at least give it thought. But as of right now, like I said, I don't have anything new to add.
And is Smithfield attached to you or to the 10 or to SH? I mean, are they staying?
Smithfield's not attached to anybody. I mean, they're
Right.
they're a company that has to make the decision that's what's best for them, right? They got to get a return on their investment. And so that doesn't matter if it's me or the race team or NASCAR or whatever. They got to go through that due diligence process on their own.
I mean, they've been a big part of your career. Do you feel like they're staying? They're going to stick around?
I don't know, and I mean that's not for me to say, right? Yeah, I mean that's not for me to say. So they're an independent company, and they run their operation. They've got to figure out what makes the most sense for them, how they can get value on their investment. And we've had a lot of talks over the years, and the one thing I will say is that I'm very proud of that relationship. It's something that I've worked really hard on throughout the course of my career, and I've turned that relationship. It started out as just a sponsorship, right? And then it went from sponsorship to partnership, and then over the last 5-6 years, it's went from partnership to relationship. And I have really deep, meaningful relationships with a lot of people inside that company. Know them very personally and very well. And that's something I'm really proud of, and that's something that will last way beyond me driving a race car and beyond me representing them as a company, is that I truly value the personal relationship that I've built with many of the people inside that company. And then as it relates to whether or not they sponsor a race car in NASCAR, that is a decision they have to make as a business decision. That's a lot of money for them to spend to be involved in the sport. I think that they've seen the value in that over the last 11 years, and that's why they've continued to sponsor a race car in the sport year after year, is because they feel like all the people that sit in the stands and turn on the TV to watch our races, that's their customer. They believe that they have the opportunity by sponsoring a race car in our sport to talk to their customer and to make it a decision for them when they go to the grocery store and look in the meat aisle. There's a decision to make for that consumer on what they're going to pick for a product, and they hope that because they sponsor a NASCAR car, that when they go through that meat aisle, that they'll pick up a Smithfield product and put it in their grocery cart. And so far, they have all the metrics and information that proves that true.
We'll go to Dustin and then wrap up with Matthew in the back.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. A couple things, and I'll just want to follow up one thing on this topic. First of all, Aric, is, when you talked about at the beginning of the year, is this, you did want to do full-time racing. You explained why in the family, and that's understandable. And I know we're in the middle of July, and quite frankly, your mind or anything can change from this point on, so I understand that. But at this point, the idea of full-time racing next year, is that something that at this day is more off the board, and the more interest is something that would allow you to kind of pick and choose events and do stuff with your family and still have a hand in racing? Is that kind of what your mindset might be at this point in July?
It's hard to say. I mean, I think there's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of things to juggle. And in relation to that, Dustin, that's a hard sell. I've learned, teams and the sponsor, they want consistency, and for me, yeah, it is really hard to wrap your head around the full out commitment of what this sport takes. Right, I'm 38 years old. I've been doing it for a long time. I'm not to the point to where most of the other guys have retired, right? Most people retire in their early to mid 40s. But for me, I feel like I also had kids younger than most of those guys before me did, right? Like Harvick and Jimmy and all those guys had kids in their 30s. I had kids in my 20s, right? My late 20s. So, I know that, Alex is going to be 10 in a month and a half. Abby's going to be 9 shortly after that. And I've just witnessed it with friends of ours that have older kids. Like, when they turn 16 and they get car keys, all they want to do is be with their friends, right? They just ask mom and dad for money and what time curfew is. And I just know that I have such a short window to be involved in their life in a meaningful way where they want me around, right? I'll always be involved in their life, but there's only a short time where they actually want me to be involved. And I just don't want to miss that opportunity. I don't want to miss that gap in that window. And so, yeah, I think as I evaluate where to go from here and give it real thought. Their opinion matters to me because, I want it to be something to where it's a family decision because I've, originally made that decision based on my family, and that won't change going forward.
And you mentioned about the resin potentially, burning off a lot sooner since it hasn't been added. I'm curious, with the shifting that is likely to be done here, does that take away, the issue of the resin? Because look, if you're even if you're not running well, you still can block somebody by downshifting or doing something in the corners anyway.
Yes and no. I mean, I think Loudon is a place that we've always fought for drive off the corners. You kind of struggle for rear grip, but it just depends on what tire Goodyear brought too, right? Like at Martinsville, we typically struggle for drive off, and then Goodyear brought a tire that was incredibly grippy and didn't fall off, and we didn't struggle for drive off. So I think it's very dependent on what tire Goodyear brought that will really determine whether or not the resin's a factor. I think it's less of a factor of whether or not we shift. If the tire falls off and we lose grip throughout the run, then shifting may or may not pay off, because if you downshift and you have more acceleration off the corners, it's probably easier to wheel spin. So I think there's a lot of factors, outside of the resin that will play a role.
We'll take a final question from Matthew.
Matthew Warnes with YankeeRacer.com. Aric, this week we've seen Brad Keselowski go to Thunder Road and run a late model. Tyler Reddick went and ran a pro stock last night at a local.
How'd they do?
Tyler finished second. I can't remember. I think Brad finished 18th.
Okay.
But
I was sincerely curious because I didn't know that.
But can you just talk about drivers from this series and the other NASCAR series going and running different short track divisions? What do you think that says about racing as a whole?
I think it's awesome. I mean, the coolest part about, short track racing when you're growing up is turning on the TV on Sunday and watching those guys and having those aspirations to get to that point. So then to have those guys that race on Sunday in the NASCAR Cup Series come to your home track and you have the opportunity to race against them, it is so cool, and it brings so much awareness and attention to short track racing. And I think that's needed, right? I think it's needed. The hard part about it is that it costs a lot of money, and there's a lot of moving parts. Our schedules are busy, and there's a lot of things that you have to factor in on our side to be able to go and do that kind of Saturday night short track racing. So I think it's awesome that those guys carved out the time and was able to go do that, and it I'm sure puts more fans in the stands and puts more attention and spotlight on those races.
All right. Thanks for your time today.
Yep.
Good luck.
Thanks, guys.